Hey, good morning, everyone. Hope everyone is warm and safe. So, with that, I believe we can go ahead and start today. I will go ahead and call this Legislative Commission Subcommittee meeting on the state budget to order. If I could believe have Ms. Kaufman call the roll.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Brooks.
Here.
Senator Canizero.
Here.
Senator Dennis.
Here.
John Daraloop.
Here.
Senator Severs-Gansert. Here. Senator Goycochea.
Here.
Senator Hammond.
Here.
Senator Kekeffer.
Here.
Senator Ratty.
Here.
Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson.
Here.
Assemblyman Frierson.
Here.
Orlow.
Here.
Assemblyman Hafen.
Here.
Assemblywoman Howdege.
Here.
Assemblyman Levitt.
Here.
Assemblywoman Miller.
Here.
Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno.
Here.
Assemblywoman Peters.
Here.
Assemblyman Roberts.
Here.
Assemblywoman Titus.
Here.
Assemblywoman Tolles.
Here.
Assemblyman Watts.
Here.
Chair Carlton. Chair Carlton.
And I am here. Thank you, Ms. Kaufman. I appreciate that. So with that, committee members will, our typical disclosures, there is no physical space for this meeting. We are meeting virtually. Ways to make public comment were posted on the agenda, either by calling in or fax, email, or regular mail. So with that, we will go to our next agenda item, which is public comment. If broadcast services could open that up. We will do up to 30 minutes at 2 minutes per person, and any other public comment will be taken at the end of the meeting. So with that, broadcast services.
Madam Chair, the line is up and working. However, there are no public callers at this time.
Okay, well, thank you. That means we can go ahead and proceed to our next agenda item. I believe first up in the batter's box today is the Department of Business and Industry. So if we could pull up that team for their presentation, please.
Great, thank you, Cheryl Carlton. We are going to present an overview of our Department of Business and Industry, also each individual agency. As you know, we are kind of a complex department. We have 11 different agencies plus the director's office. So we're going to go through that. I'm going to go through the beginning of this probably fairly rapidly, and then we'll get into the meat of things as we enter into going through our individual agencies and their budgets. So with that, Lisa, do you want to put up our slides deck? Great, thank you. This is the overview of our 2022-2023 executive budget. Our mission for Department of Business and Industry is to protect the public through fair and consistent consumer advocacy and regulation while encouraging business development within Nevada. Our statutory authority for our department and our agencies is found in NRS 232.505 through 232.548. As I indicated, business and industry consists of the director's office and 11 different divisions: insurance, industrial relations, housing, real estate, mortgage lending, financial institutions, the Taxicab Authority, Nevada Transportation Authority, Employee Management Relations Board, Labor Commissioner, and the Attorney for Injured Workers. To kind of demystify that and how we function, we have 4 separate functions within our department. First is Commerce and Capital Regulation, which is regulation of financial institutions, banking, credit unions, non-depository institutions within the state, insurance, mortgage lending, real estate, Taxi Authority, and Nevada Transportation Authority. Under Labor and Workforce Protection, we have our agencies, the Labor Commissioner, the Employee Management Relations Board, Industrial Relations, which includes 5 different sections, Workers' Comp, Mechanical, OSHA, Fine Safety, and we call SCAT, which is our Safety Consultation and Training Group, and then the Attorney for Injured Workers. Under Community Development and Small Business, we have in our Las Vegas office, the Office of Business Finance and Planning, where we concentrate basically on working with small business. We have we are the conduit issuer for private activity bonds and industrial revenue bonds for the state, also charter school bonds. Our housing division conducts several programs and does a lot of housing bonds for affordable housing, also weatherization grants. And then we also administer New Market Tax Credit Program, or statutorily known as the New Market Jobs Act. Under Advocacy and Advancement, under the Director's Office, we have the Office of Consumer Affairs, we have the Commission on Minority Affairs, we have the Ombudsman for Minority Affairs. We also, within housing, we have a housing advocate, Dr. Mayworthy Thomas. We have the HOA Ombudsman in Real Estate, Jarvez Hoger, and we have consumer affairs that we deal with in insurance, and we have our consumer unit under that. The Department of Demographics, we have 674 current approved FTEs. We have 25 policy-making boards, commissions, and advisory council members. We have 51 board members within those councils. And we have 15 offices statewide in Carson City, Elko, Las Vegas, Reno, and Winnemucca. A little bit about when we start into the budget on B&I. Less than 4.5% of all of our funding comes from the general fund. As you can see, we receive funding generally through industry fees. That's the largest category, about 75% in there. And we do receive federal funds, transfers in from other agencies, and in Nevada Transportation Authority gets a small amount of highway fund coming into it. So how does our governor's recommended budget compare to last biennium? In the 2021 legislative approved budget, we were approved for $219,297,980. In the fiscal year 22-23, we were approved, recommended for $216,839,443. That resulted in a biennial decrease of $1,450,537. So actually, it's a fairly significant reduction within our overall budget. Now, keep in mind that the 2019 approved budget included COLAs, and so the recommended budget for fiscal year 22-23 does not include COLAs. Next slide, please. So what does the Director's Office do? We provide direct support to the department's 11 divisions. We have a centralized fiscal, budget, collection, payroll, accounts payable, receivable, and resources and technology. Under our financial institutions mortgage lending, we do all their licensing within our office. We administer the provisions of law, development of regulations and policies in cooperation with our agencies. We also assist with economic development initiatives and coordinate programs to encourage growth and retention of business within our state. That's primarily the responsibility of our Office of Business Finance and Planning. We provide advocacy and protection for consumers and minority affairs. We also provide constituent services. We get literally tens and hundreds of calls in our office on a daily basis. We are the, as I indicated, we are the conduit issuer for private activity, industrial revenue, and charter school bonds. We also administer the New Market Jobs Act. In the director's office, we have a small change. We're transferring an IT professional 2 position from Taxicab Authority to the director's office in Las Vegas. Because of the reductions in Taxicab, we're moving that IT position, which has been vacant since 2019, over to the director's office, and we will use that position also to service again taxi, but not on a full-time basis like it was before, and then help us service the other 11 agencies that the director's office works with. Currently, we only have 1 person in that position, and they're quite small. The Office of Business Finance and Planning, Marcel Shearer is our deputy director in Las Vegas. He works to connect small businesses with resource providers. We engage the local business resource community in various outreach efforts. Just lately, we just had a workshop with our small business roundtable with the SBA to talk about next round of the Triple P loans and extension of the PETS grants. We educate. We advocate for small business entrepreneurs through outreach activities and educational programs. We do help them with everything from the labor market to regulations to how to get licensed, anything you can think of in terms of starting a small business. We publish the Business Advocate newsletter on a weekly basis, and that goes out to our business community. We provide resource tools, comprehensive outline of Business Resource Center on our website. We engage local business communities. We work very strongly with all the chambers within the state. We provide an interactive guide to starting and growing a business. That's called the Roadmap, and it has 375 active external resource links for business people. Everything from how to market your business, how to get licensed. We have it also done by county, so you can go into each county and find out what you need to do to be licensed, what kind of regulations there are within that county. We provide resource access in terms of capital, private activity, industrial revenue, and chargeable bonds, as I've indicated, new market tax credits, and we work with GoEd on opportunity zones. We innovate. We conduct programs to, for example, the Shop Small Nevada. We work with the National Small Business Week. We assisted small business with federal and state loans and PETS grants. We actually set up a hotline and calling so we can help businesses with those and how to fill out the loans and how to fill out the grants, and help literally just thousands of businesses. Next slide. Lisa, can you get to the next slide?
It is the next slide.
Okay. It's not continuing on mine, so.
Format is the same, but it's consumer affairs.
Okay. Consumer Affairs Unit, and I'm going to have to go on my sheet until that. Okay, here it catches cut up right now. Our Consumer Affairs Unit within the Director's Office works with other agencies. We have the Fight Fraud Task Force quarterly meetings. We work with the Federal Trade Commission workshops to ensure compliance with federal regulations. We also have a relationship with other states in the United States that we work with their attorney generals on in terms of scams and fraud activities that are going on a national basis. We work to investigate issues with consumers that have or internet-based businesses, travel and tour agencies, vacation clubs, work from home scams, which we see quite a bit of today, product purchases, for example, if people have problems with product purchases, hotel, motel, home repairs. We educate Nevada Consumer Affairs, we have several fairs that we do in the state, both in southern and northern Nevada. We work on consumer outreach awareness workshops to partner with our Consumer Affairs Coalition. And also, we the Attorney General's office to litigate deceptive trade practices that are committed against Nevada consumers. We follow up on complaints. If it rises to the level of prosecution, we work with the Attorney General's office on that. They refer cases to us that don't rise to a criminal prosecution, but are civil issues, and we get 300 plus referrals from the Attorney General's office annually. Our Consumer Affairs Unit is one of the few areas in there that is general funded, and so we've been working on that. When the Consumer Affairs Unit was dissolved in fiscal year 12, and then it was reestablished in fiscal year 14, but each year it had to be reestablished. And again, we find ourselves at sunsetting again June 30th, 2021, and this bill, the BDR we have, would remove that sunset provision so we could actually be funded on a biennial basis and continue on instead of having to go in and remove that every session of the legislature. Proposed reductions, we have elimination of a full-time administrative assistant in Las Vegas. That person is not leaving the office, is going to another position in the office. We have an elimination of a part-time assistant in Carson City. That person had a new baby and decided to stay home. So she left the position, and we have not filled that. So it's a vacant position right now. We are reducing our administrative law judge that handles our cases to 50% level, and we will back that person up with some of our administrative legal people within our different departments that will handle cases. Our Financial Institutions Division handles depository institutions. That we've got 8 banks, 8 credit unions, 1 savings loan, and 4 thrift companies and industrial loan corporations. We have 21 retail trust fiduciary institutions, 32 family trust companies, and non-depository businesses. We have 489 deferred deposit, which we call payday lenders, high interest lenders, title lenders. And also this oversees guardians, collection agencies, money transmitters, installment lenders, consumer litigation funding companies, and uniform debt managers. The division is responsible to basically process and respond to written complaints, investigate violations, disciplinary enforcement actions, promote and maintain the trust and confidence in the state's financial system through regulatory activities and public outreach, and to facilitate proposals to form de novo depository financial institutions, encourage consideration of national and out-of-state chartered institutions to convert and relocate to Nevada their state charters in an effort to rebuild the following losses. Over 50% of our banks that were lost during the recession. So this is an area that we're trying to encourage development of financial institutions, banks within our state. So we also are seeing the establishment of fast-growing retail and family trust companies that bring good-paying white-collar jobs to our state. So that's an active area. Financial institution budget proposals, a couple minor things here. We're working on the migration from the current legacy system, our Versa system, which is quite old, to a nationwide multi-state licensing system that's required and utilized by all states. There's a one-time migration cost of $41,500, and there is no other charge to state regulators as they have paid for their private sector licensing. We do have, because of our Charles Schwab, who has put their savings and trust banks into Nevada. Their corporate headquarters is in Henderson, and they've moved over $20 billion worth of assets into Nevada. So to be able to do that, we're required to have a very robust examination of their financial activities. So we're proposing 2 new financial institutions examiner 2 and new financial examiner 3. We're also expecting them to have an announcement on some additional programs and capital that they're going to be bringing into the state within the next year. Okay, under the Nevada Housing Division, what they do, they have homeowner programs, basically their down payment assistance programs, financing for multifamily development and preservation of affordable housing. They do a considerable amount of housing bonds to be able to help finance affordable housing projects within the state. They have weatherization assistance that helps people basically weatherize their homes for cold and for the hot. Oversight of manufactured housing, administer federal fundings for housing programs, housing database reporting, housing advocacy. Current activities, we work through Home is Possible down payment assistance, to low and middle income home buyers, special programs for teachers and veterans. This has been a very active program because the interest rates have been so low. We're seeing a lot of people convert and go into owning their own homes, and it's a very, very good program. We have 6 developments completed using the 4% tax program, the $10 million in tax credits allocated for the 9% program. And through this combined program, we've assisted with the creation and preservation of 7,550 affordable apartments within the last year. 962 individuals have been helped through the weatherization program, and we have administered over 13 million in federal grants for the construction and preservation of affordable housing. So when we think of housing projects, we layer that with both state, private, and federal funding to be able to put together really these affordable housing projects. And it's really have to compliment the housing staff. They do an incredible job on it. Okay, under the Nevada Housing Division, we're basically aligning our programs with our budget accounts. So really kind of a non-cost item, but it will help us with our audits for our grants in terms of having the right categories so we don't have to separate everything out. So administrative positions from housing inspection and compliance will move to the Housing Division Administration, housing assistant, administrative assistant 3, and 2 administrative assistant 2s, and an IT professional. Affordable housing advocate from housing inspection and compliance will go to Housing Division Administration, and federal home program and positions, the Housing Division Administration from low income housing. The National Council of State Housing Agencies membership go to the Housing Division Administration, the Housing Inspection. And these alignments are basically budget alignments, but they will not have an overall cost difference within the Division of Insurance. Their purpose is to protect consumers and ensure solvency of our insurance providers within the state. They regulate Nevada's $18.8 billion insurance industry. Their primary focus is to monitor and ensure solvency of carriers doing business here. They promote compliance to provide an adequate and competitive market and to ensure Nevada consumers are treated fairly. Licensing and education of individuals interacting with consumers in Nevada's insurance market. May not seem like it, but the Division of Insurance regulates over 197,000 licensees within the state, 1,500 authorized traditional insurance companies, and 2,200 other license-related entities. They also have a robust consumer services and now a fraud program. Carson City and Las Vegas offices. During fiscal years 2019 and 2020, they responded to over 26,000 consumer inquiries and recovered for Nevada consumers $11,697,826. So actually very impressive work by their consumer service. The Division of Insurance has 3 BDRs, provisions relating to Nevada Insurance Guarantee Association, AB 18, provisions relating to contracts of insurance, casualty insurance for consumer protection, and also AB 45, provisions relating to insurance, the omnibus bill, which is always a large insurance bill. We have Commissioner Richardson on, and after I get through with this, if there's questions on those, she can provide the detail on the CPRs. Mortgage Lending Division. This division is statutorily charged with the authority and responsibility to implement 4 different licensing and regulatory programs. Those programs are escrow agencies and escrow agents under NRS Chapter 645, mortgage companies and mortgage loan originators under NRS 645, mortgage servicers and covered service companies and agents under NRS 645, and the registration program for credit service organizations under NRS Chapter 598. Under the real estate division, we have licensing for real estate, both brokers and agents, builders and developers, timeshares, appraisers, energy auditors, inspectors, obstructions. That totals about a little over 40,000 licensees that they are responsible for. On the HOA side, the Office of Ombudsman educates and assists those living in common interest communities. And by the way, there's about 500 and some thousand Nevadans that now live in HOAs in our state. So they also worked with condominium hotels, timeshares, and understand the rights and responsibilities, establishment requirement for the referee program, mediation, arbitration, and the occurrence of disputes with or any civil litigation can occur. They do really an outstanding job with their education and training, HOA registration, mediation, compliance, and alternative dispute resolution. Chavez Foger is the ombudsman in that area, and his office is does really an outstanding job. Budget proposals are BDR for appraisal review compliance. This gets them in line with the federal requirements for appraising. Reduction, there's an elimination of 2 administrative assistants, 2 positions for real estate, and enhancement for the education data software. That's a one-time single appropriation for the education data software. Under the Taxicab Authority, as you know, the Taxicab Authority and taxicabs have been really affected considerably by not only by TNC going into the market, but also by the pandemic. The Taxicab Authority basically permits drivers on fingerprint and background investigation. They do vehicle inspection. They work with the companies to inspect their vehicles. Also, they do routine patrol investigations and impounds. Industry has right now 3,530 active medallions. They have 16 cab companies, 6,000 active drivers, and pre-COVID, we were at 15.8 million rides. Right now, we're dropped down to about 10 million rides. So you can see the impact. Clark County taxi rides continue to decline to about 60%, and it's even gone down, as I indicated, further than that. Taxis really still maintain an essential mode of frontline transportation. We saw a fairly healthy bump over New Year's Eve, New Year's with that, but now it's gone back and specifically without any substantial convention meeting business has gone down considerably. Taxis still remain the most efficient, quick way to move large groups of people, especially after marquee events, professional sports, and rapid line service. With the event of autonomous vehicles coming into the mass market over the next 5 years, it's likely that both traditional taxis and network vehicles will continue as complementary systems. And we're seeing a lot of activity in the autonomous vehicle area within Las Vegas. We're seeing a lot of companies testing their vehicles out as we speak. Under taxi, we did transfer the IT new position to the director's office. That's been a vacant position. which will support overall the Department of Industry and our agencies within the State Business Center. They are proposing the elimination of 2 positions of public safety dispatcher and a vehicle inspector. Nevada Transportation Authority, this is regulates the transportation of charter buses, limos, movers, tow cars, tour buses, non-emergency medical transfers, employer van pools, airport transfer services, special services, but also warehouse permits, transportation network companies, and autonomous vehicles. We're seeing, like I said, a lot of activity in that area. They process driver permits, they administer new carrier applications, they oversee administrative and enforcement hearings, and they do audit inspections of existing carriers, and also enforcement of Nevada laws. Right now we have, and these are fluctuating right now because of COVID times, but active carriers of about 947. Their active driver count, and this fluctuates really considerably, but around 15,553 drivers. And then our non-TNC driver count is about 5,600. But like I said, that fluctuates on a monthly basis. The Office of Labor Commissioner has several major responsibilities. The Commissioner enforces private sector employment laws, principally minimum wage and overtime, but everything from lunch breaks, deductions, employment practices, employment of minors. They also oversee prevailing wage and public works projects. They issue public works project numbers that will keep track of public works projects and calculate prevailing wage, enforce and investigate potential violations of prevailing wage, and impose penalties and disqualification of contractors should they appear in terms of violations. They also regulate private employment agencies, license and regulate those temporary staffing agencies, and Silver Plume online application license. Under wage claim and complaints, they reviewed 8,764 claims and collected $2,135,570 for wage earners that wage complaints. They also collected $4,650 in penalties. Those penalties, by the way, go directly into the general fund. Prevailing wage claims, they reviewed 178 claims. They collected $729,000 for under prevailing wage claims for either misclassification or employees weren't paid what they should be under the prevailing wage laws. The penalties were assessed for $149,000. Public works projects, numbers issued, there was approximately 170 public works projects, numbers issued. Administrative penalty fines were approximately 423,000, and the regulated private employment agencies, there's 384 of those. Proposed reductions within that, they're reducing an administrative 2 position, which is vacant, and in year 2 to bump that up to 25%. They're reducing an administrative 3 position to be vacant in year 1 and full-time in year 2. So the budget reflects those reductions. They're looking at a reclassification of administrative assistant 2 position to a compliance audit investigator 2. This will help them keep up on their investigations that they need to do for wage issues. There is also a budget item for workforce manager software update. That's approximately $25,000. Employee Management Relations Board. This board acts as an administrative court. Really, this is our smallest. We have a 5-member board, but we only have a staff of 3 people. They resolve disputes under unfair labor practice allegations, scope of bargaining units, which employee organizations, if any, to represent a given employee. They are now have worked with state government. They have 190 local governments that they oversee, 155 employee organizations, or labor organizations, and 258 bargaining. So there's 18,500 state employees, government employees, and 87,800 local government employees. So they do that through hearings before the board on a panel of board members. There are 5 board members, but they can now meet in panels, and they work with representation on settlement conferences conducted by the commissioner. The 5-member board members are appointed by the governor, and as I said, they have 3 full-time staff. EMRB does not resolve grievances. Those are resolved through the process detailed in each one of the 200 collective bargaining agreements. The board continues to meet during the pandemic, meeting twice a month for up to 3 days per meeting. So they've been very busy meeting on a virtual schedule. The agency is currently holding hearings, having cases scheduled through March with no cases waiting for a hearing date. So they are current. They have implemented the law establishing collective bargaining for state employees, including setting up bargaining units, ruling on representation position, and amending administrative rules, all on schedule. Recently, they held the first 2 hearings involving unfair labor practices allegations at the state level. All the agency's reported decisions since its inception are now on the Legislative Council Bureau's Nevada Law Library on a CD. Division of Industrial Relations. This is our largest agency and most complex agency within the Department of Business and Industry. They have 5 separate units. First is the Nevada Occupational Health and Safety Administration. They have the Safety Consultation and Training section, which is commonly known as SCATS, which works with businesses and helping them with training and safety consultation. They have the Mechanical Compliance Unit, which works to have safe operation of boilers, elevators, and escalators within Nevada. We have our Mine Safety and Training section, which works with Nevada local mining to basically help and train their employees. We also, this group works with the Mountain Warfare group of the military and helps them with their underground tunnel training. We also have our Workers' Compensation section, which is ensuring care for injured workers. So their main tasks are to enforce OSHA standards, the governor's COVID directives in the workplace, reviewing COVID safety plans for events within the state. They conduct all safety training online. We just went online for our 1030 cards to do that on a virtual basis. Our continuing recognition program, Safety and Health Achievement Recognition Programs, which is called SHARP, and our Voluntary Protection Program, VPP, Safety and Excellence. So we're using a new elevator permit database to focus on compliance efforts, because that has been an issue in the past in keeping up our elevator permits on that, but the new database will help us be able to get a better handle on that. We have been developing strategic vision for the future for workers' compensation claim and regulatory data system on our cards to make sure that we can get an accurate view of what kind of cases are coming in and how to best administer those. Attorney for Injured Workers provides legal representation to injured workers seeking workers' compensation benefits. They also provide general and procedural information to the public regarding workers' compensation system within Nevada. They represent over 1,000 injured workers cases each year. They have initial administrative appeals hearings, ran through this last year of 792 of those. They had appeals to district courts of 16, appeals to the Supreme Court of 6, and decision and settlement wins. They actually processed and won 442 cases. What that all boils down to is that they recovered literally millions of dollars back for injured workers and making sure that they get their proper benefit, workers' comp benefits, and get the treatment that they need. NAIW represents between 25 and 30% of all claimants seeking benefits at the appeals level. And why I say that is that they have the opportunity to go to a private attorney, or they can choose to go with the attorney for injured work. Our system allows them to go either way that they want on those, and a lot of them choose to go with us. That concludes our presentation, and we're available for questions you may have. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, Mr. Reynolds. That is a lot. So, I have a couple questions, and then I'm going to go ahead and open up to committee members who have some questions. So I'm just going to start at the beginning. The thing that's been bouncing around for years, the Consumer Affairs Unit. Are we going to find it a permanent home? And what could you expand a little? You gave us a bit of an overview, but it is an important unit to folks. So could you expand a little bit more on that, what your thought processes are? And I know you're probably going to need a bill draft to get some of this stuff done. So when can we, my typical question, when can we expect to see the bill draft?
We do have a bill draft on that, so that you should be able to see that relatively shortly. One of the things I want to point out is that Consumer Affairs, generally, we work in concert with a lot of different entities. And so we have the resources of all of our divisions that we work with. So if there's a complaint in banking or in insurance, or we can combine forces with our Consumer Affairs Division. The Consumer Affairs Division typically helps people that are underrepresented, typically wouldn't have the resources or the ability to go in and hire an attorney to defend themselves, and so we represent that those individuals. I would tell you that we have a very effective compliance rate of approximately 90-some%. So we actually clear and get it resolved, the consumer complaints resolved for approximately 90% of those cases. Well, that's why it's really so important, because otherwise those individuals that have those type of cases would probably not be able to recover anything out of that if we weren't representing to them. We do see area-wide scams or regional scams, and we work with the Attorney General's office on those, and we have a very effective network to be able to help with that. We also work with senior groups to tell them about potential scams. As you know, the seniors can be preyed on, and so we help them in terms of identifying those types of scams, or we have a phone line for them to call in and make sure that what's been represented to them is actually real and that they're not being scammed. So it's extremely important with that. As you know, the Consumer Affairs Unit has had to go through each legislative session and be renewed. And so we're hoping to get that as a permanent fixture within our B&I, within our director's office, to be able to continue the work we do with consumers.
Okay, and thank you, Mr. Reynolds. So where is the unit actually physically located?
The unit is located, the main unit is located within the director's office in Las Vegas. So Marcel Scheer, our deputy director in that office, oversees the consumer unit. We do also have an investigator in Carson City that's in the director's office within our Carson City office. So we have people both in Carson City and in Las Vegas, but the main unit is in Las Vegas. And that's where we see the bulk of our activity, but we do combined work both north and south.
All right, thank you very much. That answers some of my questions, and we look forward to digging into some of the work that they've done and be able to address this and find them a permanent home and moving forward so that consumers have someplace to go when they've had an issue.
If you have a breakdown of those statistics, then I'll provide that to the committee that shows the areas that they work in.
Okay, thank you very much. I believe I have Mr. Roberts for a question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, you've got a pretty diverse operation there. And, you mentioned it a little about the NTA and the Taxicab Authority, and that you predict that there could be some reduction in, with autonomous vehicles over the next few years. And I was curious if you thought of any consolidation of those two like units over the next biennium or even a little further out, the Boring project. There's a number of things that would probably drive some efficiencies there and maybe some even cost savings.
Very good question. We have looked at that issue, and I will tell you that from a paper number standpoint, it would probably make sense to look at future consolidation of those two units. But from an actual operations standpoint, in terms of how taxis operate versus transportation network companies, Uber, Lyft, those type of companies, there's really kind of a different culture between the two. And you've got the Taxicab Authority, who oversees kind of a regulatory authority over the cab industry, which is a very highly regulated industry, everything from inspections to advertising to rates. And then you have TNCs that don't have the same type of regulation. We have a comparison with the two entities and how one is regulated versus the other, and how potentially you could put that together. But I think it's going to take a lot of thought. It's going to take a lot of work, because you've got one that's a statewide entity, the Nevada Transportation Authority, that deals with transportation and cabs on a statewide basis, versus the Taxicab Authority, which is just located, deals with taxis in Clark County. So I think, complex, different cultures, and but I think over time, this is something that should be considered.
Thank you. I really look forward to that, and I agree it's probably the right direction to go. Appreciate it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Assemblyman Roberts. Are there other questions from other committee members at this time? I don't see anyone sending me a message, but if you do, just let me know.
Madam Chair, sorry, I didn't get to put that in the chat.
Okay, go ahead, Assemblywoman Tolles.
Thank you so much. And I'd like to second that sentiment that if there is an opportunity, now is a time to pursue efficiency and cost savings. I think now more than ever would be a good time. And I think that would be a worthwhile discussion. Why wait if that's an option to consolidate those two departments? But I wanted to go back to your slides 6 and 7 and appreciate the discussion about general funds versus fees that help to support the Department of Business and Industry. And just, it's my understanding that overall the executive budget is recommending an increase over the biennium of 45.7 million or 14.6%. And much of that is primarily due to the cost of living adjustments. And so wondered if you could clarify for me how much of that is coming from, and forgive me, I'm a little new, so I'm still learning the ropes, but how much of that is coming from fees versus the general fund for that increase for cost of living?
Good question. In terms of our current budget recommendation that we have, the governor's recommendation, that does not include COLAs on that. So if I'm not mistaken, and Lisa, you may want to, our Chief Financial Officer, chime in on that. But so what you see under those pie charts that are on graph 6 that shows that, it shows the total expenditures within their budget. So basically, 75% of that are fee-based, and those fees generally licensing fees that are conducted throughout our industry to be able to finance the regulation of that. I think they're very reasonable fees. We have done a state-by-state comparison on those, and we tend to fall in either the middle or lower third in terms of our overall fees that we have for regulation of our industries. So we also have kind of a hybrid. For example, in real estate, where that is still general funded, and the amount of fees that they generate is considerable, several $1 million above and beyond what it takes to operate them, and that goes into the general fund, and that's a sore spot, I think, for some of our realtors because of the amount that they contribute to that. But it takes, there's a lot that goes into, as you know, to the general fund, and most of that is health and human services and education, which is important to the state. But they look at it in terms of the burden that they have in terms of regulation of the industry and what they pay for that. So I think they're looking at how they can become fee-based, and there may be some proposals in this legislative session on that. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, but we try to regulate the industry and be moderate in terms of the fees that we have, and I think we've achieved that, and I think most of the industry will tell you that we try to keep those fees down, and we're moderate compared to other states.
Thank you for those clarifications.
Other members of the committee, any questions at this time? Well, I do have a couple more. So if we could go to the funding source change for the Division of Industrial Relations, it looks like you're going to be using some compensation and safety fund dollars to deal with the oversight of employee leasing companies. And there's a proposal to transfer employee leasing companies to the Division of Insurance. So it's a multi-component question here. So are those funds the appropriate use for employee leasing companies is one of my first questions. And then why the Division of Insurance? Because under the Labor Commissioner, you have employment agencies and temporary staffing agencies. So it seems to me that employee leasing companies would fit better in that world rather than under the Division of Insurance. So if you could address the first question, and then we can talk about the second component.
Okay, I'm going to call on Victoria Carrion in our VIR, our administrator for that, and also Barbara Richardson in insurance, and they can go through the explain on it. This is one of those where we had functions in one area and we had functions in the other area, and we looked at consolidating that to be able to put it, instead of having it stretched over two different agencies, consolidated into one agency. But that's a good point. So, Corey, if you want to go through that. And also, Commissioner Richardson.
Hello, this is Victoria Carrion. I'm the administrator at the Division of Industrial Relations. And in that proposal, the revenue that you're seeing is the registration revenue for the employee leasing companies. So the proposal would be that it would move from Division of Industrial Relations to the Division of Insurance. And that revenue is about $100,000 a year. It's $500 per leasing company. And then in terms of why we're moving it to Division of Insurance is because they have expertise in terms of reviewing the financial statements that are part of the registration process for the employee leasing companies. And I don't know if Commissioner Richardson would like to chime in as well.
Certainly, thanks. So this is Barbara Richardson, an insurance commissioner. I hope I have my screen up. So good morning, committee members. And basically, one of the issues that we found when we looked at the employee leasing concerns was we wanted to make sure that when we moved them into the insurance division, we were also following the funds. So the unit that actually does the financial review for these or was going to be doing the financial review for these type of entities, also does same type of financial reviews for TPAs and other small business entities. So they're very specifically triggered to actually look at the solvency concerns. So the employee leasing programs themselves will still belong to DIR, but the application renewal and all that kind of sort of functional review that comes with making sure that they're solvent will sit in the Division of Insurance. And our fees follow much like DIR, they go directly into the general fund. So there really isn't any loss of funds to the state in order to make that move. And if you have any questions, let me know.
I'm just still trying to put together, I mean, they're a employee leasing company. They do part of the package that they do, that they sell folks, that the reason why they should lease their employees through this company is the insurance component and the financial side I get, but they're not an insurance company. So will you actually be regulating them, or how is that going to work? Or you're just going to be reviewing their financials?
This is Barbara Richardson again. Yes, we're just reviewing their financials. The actual regulation of whether or not they're in compliance would remain with DIR, and how they handle their dealings with the consumers, that still remains with DIR. We literally are taking the brunt of them, making sure that they're solvent, so that they can make sure that all the claims are paid and all the consumers are taken care of.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Reynolds, I guess. Please go ahead.
Sorry, I apologize. So it might be helpful to know that we do a couple other entities for DIR already. This is not out of our general bailiwick.
This is Terry Reynolds, Director. I just wanted to thank you, Barbara. I wanted to point that out because they have the expertise in being able to do the audits and make sure that these businesses maintain their solvency. We felt it was important for that function to come over to insurance to be able to handle that. But the actual regulation of those type of companies still is going to be under industrial relations.
Okay, so that leads me to my next question then. Why would they be under industrial relations rather than the labor commissioner with staffing agencies and employment agencies? If you're going to have Division of Insurance doing the financials, why are employee leasing companies under industrial relations? Because industrial relations to me is not, it just doesn't seem to fit. And I don't think anybody would naturally associate them with DIR.
Yeah, I think Terry Reynolds, again, for the record, I think a very good point. And it's one of those things that has grown up, and it was in industrial relations for a period of time. Should it be looked at going over to the labor commissioner? It probably should. But the problem we have right now is that being the labor commissioner is one of our few general funded agencies, they're really stretched to the max to be able to try to do what they do. We're going to be looking at some ways to get additional funding for them to be able to have the staff that they need to provide those functions. But so that would be my essential concern. But you are correct. This is one of those old items that grew up under industrial relations, and we're now looking at it going, why is it there? Because it's been there for a period of time. That's not a good answer, but that's what has happened, and we're looking at taking the expertise within the insurance division to be able to help out and be able to conduct the financial audits to make sure these companies are solvent to be able to pay for the workforce.
And I remember this coming up, and I think the incumbent at industrial relations just basically raised his hand and said, I'll take care of them. So it was an easy place to put them when we had these first discussions, but they've evolved since then. So I think it might be time to take a look at it and try to have a more comprehensive plan, these moving forward, because those all three of them, staffing agencies, employment agencies, and employee leasing companies, we do end up having complaints from those employees, and they just need to be able to figure out where to go and how do we regulate these folks in the easiest way possible. It's not as disjointed. So, all right. So that, I think, pretty much answers most of my questions. Committee members, Ms. Benitez Thompson, you have a question?
Yeah, thank you so much. So just one specific thing that I see is the reduction of impositions being specific to administrative assistant positions. So I think I'll be interested to hear back and have us create a legislative record that we'll talk about how that will impact the level of services that are provided. And I think that that'll be important for posterity reasons. You know, with our last economic downturn, we saw a lot of positions held vacant or a lot of positions let go, and we never really restaffed up, right? Outside of, you know, our welfare Medicaid departments, we really didn't say, okay, we're robust, and then like have a hiring spree. So it's not like we got back to normal and then are letting people go. So I'm just really want to make sure that we have on the record for the public and for future legislators, you know, what this impact will look like. If it's anything like most of the world's our administrative assistants are, you know, letting them go will have an impact. So I think we just want to talk about how that will change the overall functions. And then the other thing is over the past few years, I feel like this is one department where we have moved a lot of budget accounts around, collapsed, moved. And so I think from staff, it might be helpful to kind of get a look back over the past 4 or 6 years for where we've been moving around different budget accounts in here, and what seems to be working when we move those around, and then what we might have collapsed or put together, and then what we might be pulling apart. Because it seems to me that on some of these, at least, that I have a recollection of doing other types of budget moves or budget transfers or in consolidations. But that information from staff would be helpful.
So just to address
that, not either our staff or your staff, but that can all be for subcommittee hearings.
Terry Reynolds for the record, Assemblyman Benitez Thompson, thank you very much for bringing up issue on administrative assistance, because we're also concerned about that. We've been able to make the transition without laying anybody off. We've been able to move people around into vacant positions, but we're still concerned about the workload to be done, especially in real estate. And that's one of the areas that, as you know, over the years has been hit pretty hard, and it's been very active lately, and we're concerned about them being able to keep up with their work. We've had a downturn in the timeshare industry because of COVID. We hope that will come back, but that has affected us financially with that. I know the industry is looking at ways to supplement and help real estate in terms of their funding to be able to keep up the service that they do for licensing and keep up technology support that we have to. The other part of it is that, you know, BNI was put together, and there were a lot of different agencies that were moved in and consolidated into that. And so we've kind of been like a car that has been assembled by all these different parts. And now we're trying to make it work better by going through and looking at how our budget counts have set up, how things are actually operating. And as we've gone through multiple audits in terms of what is the best way to handle some of those types of accounts, we have made those changes. So I think that's what you're seeing over time. And does it look convoluted from time to time? Yes, it does. But we're trying to make sure that we have a better and more efficient operation within our fiscal division.
Thank you. And I didn't mean to imply convoluted. I just meant like, for example, when we talk about the real estate structure and fees, it feels like it was just within the past couple sessions where we restructured that system and how that was being funded in other pieces. So I was just, that would help me with just keeping everything in context of the work that's been done recently to make sure on our end, we're not undoing something that we just did or redoing something that was tried and undone, because Lord knows we're notorious for that.
I appreciate that. Terry Reynolds again for the record, but, and I agree with you. We will provide you that information, but it to be able to follow along and see what's been done in the past, and are we improving, or are we just reshuffling the deck? I want to make sure that we're making good fiscal decisions and that we're improving our system.
Okay, with that, are there any other questions from any other committee members at this time? I don't believe I see anything, so thank you very much, Mr. Reynolds. And all of your team. Will be seeing a lot of you, I'm sure, once we get a deeper dive into some of these budgets and try to straighten out a few things that have gotten a few wrinkles over the last couple of bienniums, especially when we were coming out of the last downturn. I don't think we've ever gotten everything straightened out since then. So we'll be working on that and move forward. So thank you all very much. And I believe we can go on to our next item today, which will be the Department of Taxation. If we could go ahead and queue up the appropriate team on this.
Greetings. This is Melanie Young, Executive Director for the Department of Taxation. I would just like to confirm that you can hear me.
Yes, I can. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Let me bring up our presentation. Thank you again. For the record, Melanie Young, Executive Director for the Nevada Department of Taxation, and we thank you for your time today. With me are members of our executive team, as you can see listed here. What we would like to do is present the department's biennial budget request and some initiatives that the department has. What I'd like to do is we'll go through a few slides and then we'll jump right into the budget request. This is an overview of the department's organizational chart showing our 5 divisions, and we staff boards and commissions. We have 5 boards and commissions that we staff, and currently we have 404 employees. This is a listing of all of our office locations and contact information. This is an overview of the department's collects different NRSs that we collect and distribute revenue for. This slide demonstrates the tax revenues and distributions from fiscal year 2020. The department collects revenue from 19 different taxes, numerous fees, penalties, and licenses, which funds essential government services. The funding is distributed, as you can see, to the general fund, local governments, and schools. In fiscal year 2020, we distributed $7.2 billion. That was slightly down from fiscal year 19 of $124 million, or 1.7% reduction. Interestingly, the department collects 70% of the state general fund revenues. I'd like to note that in fiscal year 2020, it cost the state general fund 48 cents to collect every $100 from the department. To put this into perspective, that's a half a penny to collect every dollar. When we compare that to other non-income tax states like Washington State, it costs 62 cents in Washington to collect every $100. And similarly in Tennessee, it's 55 cents to collect every $100. This is an overview of some changes from the department looking back to 2015. So over the past 5 years, our footprint has changed quite significantly. In fiscal year 2015, or the legislative session, was implemented the commerce tax. And in fiscal year 2020, we collected over $204 million, and we have 295,000 taxpayer accounts still registered with the department for that tax type. In fiscal year, or the 2017 legislative session, we implemented the wholesale and retail marijuana taxes. And in fiscal year 2020, we collected over $105 million from those two tax types and have 418 taxpayers with filing obligations. Since fiscal year 2015, the department's revenue collections has increased by $1.84 billion. Additionally, the department's taxpayer accounts with filing obligations has changed from June 30, 2015. At that point in time, we had 196,797 taxpayers that had filing obligations. In June 30, 2020, that number is 527,937 taxpayers, which is an increase of 329,000 taxpayers, or 167% increase. This slide is an overview of the major legislation passed from the 2019 legislative session. And in that session, AB 445 that implemented the marketplace facilitators. I apologize. That bill was implemented in October of 2019. And in fiscal year 2020, the department collected $108 million in tax revenue from those businesses who are registered as a marketplace facilitator with the department. And as you may recall, the defining factors of a marketplace facilitator include a forum, which is a shop, store, booth, catalog, internet site, or similar forums that have an electronic or physical infrastructure here in Nevada. The department currently has 1,015 taxpayer accounts that are flagged as marketplace facilitators. SB 263 implemented the 30% wholesale tax on other tobacco products. This was implemented effective January 1 of 2020, and the taxes collected, we saw an increase over fiscal year 2019 of $5.1 million. That's a 28% increase. AB 535 imposed the changes to licensing fees on tobacco and other tobacco product licensees. The department licensed 3,353 licensees, which brought in $340,000 in revenue to the department. AB 535, which passed in the 2019 session, which transitioned the Marijuana Enforcement Division to the Cannabis Compliance Board. And the department continues to work with the Cannabis Compliance Board, and we meet at least quarterly to discuss topics that cross over both of our agencies. And then finally, Senate Bill 497, which was one of our efficiency measures from last legislative session, that eliminated the requirement for businesses whose revenue is under $4 million for the commerce tax, that they no longer had to file a tax return. And the department recognized a 50% reduction in taxpayer accounts with filing obligations under that tax type. Moving on to changes from the 31st special legislative session, in Senate Bill 3, the department has announced the tax amnesty program. That program is estimated to bring in $14 million in revenue for the general fund and $7 million to the distributive school account. The department announced the amnesty program starting February 1st, operating through May 1st. To summarize, SB 3 from that session requires the department to relieve a person who is not paid a tax, fee, or assessment that is collected by the department of all monetary penalties and interest imposed during the program period to not last longer than 90 days. If the person first requests relief from the department and second pays the tax, fee, or assessment in full for the period. It's important to note that this does not include taxes such as the real property transfer tax, property taxes, lodging taxes, or taxes that are not directly remitted to the department. The goals of the amnesty program is to reduce tax debt owed to the state and provide an influx of funding to state, local governments, and schools. The second goal is to bring taxpayers into compliance. The benefit of the taxpayers paying the tax debt and ending the department's collection efforts. Additionally, interest would not continue to accrue on taxpayer accounts, which would decrease their debt burden. Since the passage of Senate Bill 3, the department has worked diligently to implement the amnesty program. By first, we developed the ability for an electronic submission where taxpayers can apply and pay through our online portal. We've expanded the ability for those electronic submissions, and additionally, taxpayers who don't have that opportunity can still submit manually to the department. Then the department developed a multifaceted communication plan to announce the start of the program and get the information out to the industry. So this has been done by providing a media release. Information has been released on our listserv, social media via Twitter, and announcements have been sent through various newsletters such as the Governor's Office, Business and Industries, the Federation of Tax Administrators, and the Nevada Taxpayers Association. As well as we will, ongoing through the 90-day program period, be continuing the communication efforts so that the taxpayers are aware of this program. And then finally, in Senate Bill 3, there were changes to the net proceeds of minerals tax imposed by the department. The department held workshops with the industry, modified the tax forms which were approved by the Nevada Tax Commission, and the forms were sent to the industry and are due March 1st, along with the estimated payment for next year. The current payment for the net proceeds of minerals for this year is not due until May 10th. Next, I would like to cover some accomplishments for the department and some concerns that we are facing. For some time now, the department has been working on the development and implementation of credit cards, and we're finally there. Prior to September 2020, the department was only able to accept cash, check, or electronic transfers such as e-check. In September 2020, the department piloted credit cards for a few of its tax types. And then the majority of the other tax types became available in December 2020, and there are a few exceptions. With the expanded payment options with the department, this will provide a great benefit to the taxpayers. By payments of credit cards are only available in our online portal at this time. There is a flat 2.2% convenience fee associated with the payments by credit card. The way this works is when a taxpayer selects the credit card option, a fee is calculated by the payment processor. The fee is not something the department controls, and the payment is, the payment for the fee does not come through the department, and the department receives the full tax payment. Next, the department implemented an appointment scheduler. This was utilized by the department when we opened to the taxpayers under certain circumstances during the COVID pandemic. It was a great success, allowing taxpayers to make appointments online. Prior to this, taxpayers were only able to show up at one of our 4 locations and wait to be served. We anticipate that when we are fully operational, that this will greatly benefit our taxpayers when taxpayer visits are heavy, which is typically the last week of the month. By giving the opportunity to make an appointment, the taxpayer can make an appointment, it would provide a great convenience to them and their busy schedules. An ongoing concern of the department is that we have experienced significant staff vacancies, such as keeping positions vacant for budgetary savings, having positions out on leave due to COVID factors such as awaiting test results, positive test results, distance learning, childcare issues, as well as staff turnover. The executive team has identified some efforts that we can do without additional resources. These efforts include a more dynamic job announcements, greater breadth and width of our distribution of job announcements using social media, as well as developing a taxation onboarding program using our current staff resources. The goal of this is to have our employees who are brought on gain a greater understanding of the broad functions of the department. Currently, we have approximately 42% of our staff who are working within a department office and 58% are working remotely. We do face significant challenges with the remote work, primarily due to our antiquated systems and our reliance on manual paper processes. This slide covers the Department of Taxation's goals, and the executive team worked significantly on our strategic plan starting in December 2019. Our efforts included SWOT analysis, SMART goals, employee outreach, leadership discussions with all divisions, offices, and sections to determine the goals and align the budgetary needs for the department. In summary, our goals are to ensure consistent, transparent treatment and accessibility to taxpayers, provide and promote efficient taxpayer experiences, implementing data governance for better decision-making, attract and retain an empowered workforce, enable a modern digital workplace, and reduce IT backlog projects through efficiencies and automation strategies. Now we will move on to our budgetary request, revenue changes, and position reductions. When we prepared our budgetary request for the upcoming biennium, and additionally faced with budgetary reductions, the executive team discussed our needs extensively and what we could do in light of revenue reductions facing the state. We took a deep dive at looking at our fees, cost allocations, and assessments on revenues. Then we had to look at our largest budget expenditure, which is personnel, and what we must have to remain status quo. Then we had to look towards what would take to be fully operational. During fiscal year 2020, many of our staff resources and operating expenditures were reduced to meet budgetary reductions, and in the coming slides, we will cover those topics. The first proposal here is a change of revenue received by the department, which was a justice court fee. This was identified as a potential revenue source. The justice court fee is a $1 fee. It was implemented in 1991 and has not changed in over 30 years. The purpose of this fee is to cover the cost associated with the state demographer in determining the annual populations of towns, townships, cities, and counties, as well as the annual report of projected population. The fee is imposed on any person commencing, answering, or appearing before the justice court. In determining the basis for proposing the fee change, we looked at the cost for the demographer, as well as the operating expenditures, and thus we are proposing a fee increase from $1 to $2. This will bring in an estimated $82,000 each year. A BDR will be submitted for this change. Next is a proposal of a revenue allocation change. I need to acknowledge a correction of the information provided by the department in our budgetary proposal on this request. The verbiage referenced in Decision Unit 681 that was sent over to the Governor's Finance Office and the Legislative Council Bureau describes tobacco and other tobacco product licensing. It seems this information came from what was passed in the 2019 legislative session under AB 535. However, that is not what the intent of the department was. The staff has communicated the correction to the Governor's Finance Office and the Legislative Council Bureau staff, and we apologize for the inconvenience on the misinformation provided, but we would like to correct the record here today. The proposal is a cost allocation change, which is currently authorized in the NRS 370.260, which is the compensation for the state for the cost of collecting cigarette taxes by the department, which we transfer the taxes and license fees imposed an amount to cover the department's cost for positions, associated expenditures, and cigarette stamps. The Tobacco realized it had not reviewed this allocation in over 5 years, and this decision unit represents the difference in the cost allocation that is currently transferred to the department, which will bring in an additional $116,000 in fiscal year 22 and $141,000 in fiscal year 23. And this request does not require a BDR to implement. This next revenue proposal will propose and implement a $15 annual fee for the seller's permit. The sales and use tax permit is required for every business or person engaged in conducting business as a seller in Nevada. The seller's permit is issued to a business when they register with the department and is required for each business location. Currently, the fee is a one-time fee, and that fee is not changed in over 17 years when the fee was increased back in 2003. In researching this proposal, the department surveyed other states. 10 states charge a seller's permit that range from $20 to $100, and 5 other states charge a renewal fee on these seller permits. Additionally, the renewal fee will help the efficiency of the department, as its businesses that are not operating may not close their account, and currently businesses that are not opening may continue to keep their account open, hold on to their seller's permit, which can be used to purchase tax-exempt items. The department has to monitor these accounts and follow up if sales are made by the businesses. If businesses are no longer operating but holds a permit, staff time is focused on monitoring these accounts rather than redirected to other important priorities. This proposal will bring in additional $476,000 to the general fund and a similar amount to local governments and schools. And a BDR will be submitted for this change. The final revenue proposal submitted by the department is the establishment as a reimbursement of costs for the department. Currently, in NRS 361.530, there is an 8% commission on the gross amount collected from personal property taxes by the county assessors and treasurers. The Department of Taxation currently provides this service at no cost to the local entities for the valuation as well as the collection and disbursement of the property taxes collected on centrally assessed properties. This proposal will allow the department to collect a commission on the unsecured roll or personal property tax of centrally assessed properties. However, to clarify, the department is only proposing a commission equal to the cost of the department for administering the valuation, billing, and collection and disbursement of this tax, which is anticipated to be $137,000 in fiscal year 22 and $39,000 in fiscal year 23. And a BDR will be submitted for this change. Next, our decision unit 680 proposes to eliminate 7 vacant positions that were authorized from the 2019 legislative session. I'd like to acknowledge that the department was very fortunate in the 2019 legislative session, receiving 25 new positions. Many of these positions have been held vacant to meet budgetary savings, and therefore the department has not been able to fill these positions, nor have we been able to recognize the benefits of many of these positions. We looked at what was needed to maintain the status quo for the department, and as now we are recommending the elimination of these 7 positions. The next 4 slides are very small decision units that would restore, maintain, or enhance the department's operational capacity. During fiscal year 2020, again, the department has faced reductions to the base budget and to its operational budget as a result of budgetary savings and limited work capacity due to COVID. In the matter of time, we will not go into detail on these slides with the intention of covering them in more detail during the budget hearing in session. In summary, they relate to travel, ongoing software maintenance, printing and operating supplies, a small software request, and the IRS mandate on background checks of employees. However, if the chair would like, we could cover them today. And I would like to take a moment to see how far, if you would like us to go into detail on these, or we can bypass them and cover them during session.
I think unless committee members have questions at the end, then you answer them, but otherwise we don't have to get that far into the detail on this. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. So I will move down to slide 21. Next, we will cover one-shot appropriations for the department. The first one shot is covered as is an office consolidation in the Las Vegas area. This was considered as an efficiency measure to reduce ongoing cost and address areas of concern for the department. The first area of concern is the situation at the Henderson lease. We are currently on a month-to-month lease, and the lease is being in the process of being renegotiated. However, the lease leaves the department in the place if the landlord so chooses. We could be required to move in 30 days. Additionally, we are at space capacity for Henderson and the Grant Sawyer building. A specific area of concern for the Grant Sawyer building is the cash count room is also our only conference room. The Grant Sawyer conference room is the only meeting space for employees. During the department meetings with leadership at each office, there were concerns about managers having to travel between the office locations for supervisory presence. So there was a request for additional positions for those offices. However, through this consolidation and moving the offices into one location in the Las Vegas area, we will find efficiencies by eliminating duplicative vendor costs, such as the security guards, extra camera coverage, Loomis pickups, as well as avoid an additional request for staffing. The next one-shot appropriation is our technology investment request. And our new unified tax system project called Project Mint, which is Modernize Your Nevada Tax. The department has been engaged in the process of memorializing our current state assessment, the business benefit analysis, future state processes, documenting a solution strategy, and a modernization roadmap and business case. The department hit the pause button on this project and returned funding as a result of reducing state revenues. The next phase of the project would have been an RFP development and funding selection for solution selection. Replacing our system has become unavoidable. The complexity of our system, decreasing availability of specialized knowledge of old technologies, unfortunately, I have to bring up COBOL, is increasingly difficult to maintain. In our findings as a result of our Gartner's current state assessment, the executive and department leadership is hindered by our limited access to data, analytical capabilities to support decision-making. Significant changes at the department create organizational change management a challenge. Business processes are fragmented across user groups, and inconsistencies in workflows and additional manual processes and lack of transparency. Operational continuity is threatened by the prevalence of tax know-how is often reliant on one individual. Limited functionality, usability, and access to data has introduced widespread organizational constraints. Due to the myriad of programming languages and aging technology across all of our tax types, contributes to constraints of the onboarding of staff and buy-in at the department. Limited functionality of the system's records also create an extensive use of Access, Excel, and custom-developed programs to record and manage many of our tax types. And unfortunately, we have several of our large tax types still functioning in Excel and Access. Taxpayer expectations are increasing in the terms of type and quality of engagement with the department, and our staff face manual processes to extract and research information on taxpayers. As we talk about the current state assessment, we also must acknowledge that our readiness assessment indicated the department has some work to do. We were grateful for the pause button while we worked to implement organizational structure, data and project management governance, culture and change management focus, and address employee turnover and data quality and accessibility. It's important to address the culture and change management that are critical to the success of these large projects. In working with Gartner on the solution strategy and modernization roadmap, the leadership team reviewed 3 options, one being a COT solution, another the best of breed, and a final was a custom-built alternative. At this time, we are working with Gartner to finalize our solution strategy and modernization roadmap and has selected a COT solution strategy, which would provide the least amount of risk and cost. However, it would require the department in rethinking its operations and adopting the vendor's best practices. We finally looked at our internal resources and timeline to implement the COT solution, and the timeline moved the majority of the costs to implement this into the next biennium. This request would allow the department to hire project management staff, backfill positions to provide internal staffing to function as subject matter experts, and implement software that would modernize our document imaging and scanning in preparation of the system replacement. Finally, these are a few one-shot requests that provide the department its computer replacement, printer replacement, and software and other various equipment replacements. This is a summary of our budgetary slide where 96% of our budget is funded with general funds and our largest expenditure is personnel. This demonstrates the fiscal year 23 summary of our budgetary requests. And finally, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the department's executive team and their work on the strategic plan, Project Mint, and this budget request. We acknowledge the department has changed significantly over the past 5 years, and we are seeing the results of those growing pains. Not to mention the significant tribulations the department faced in the past 2 years with the cannabis litigation and being an essential service agency during COVID. This team and the department's employees have done Herculean efforts to collect revenues, manage the request for tax extensions, and keep processes ongoing. On top of that, we continue to focus on the future of the department and partnering with our stakeholders. We are here to be a partner in the resources of the state, good stewards of the state resources, and move the department forward with resources and opportunities. And this concludes our presentation, and I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Young. That was very well done. I appreciate it. It was easy to follow through on. I think I have a number of members who do have questions, but the first thing I have to ask you about is the way you're handling the credit cards now. And if you've got a playbook on that, I'd like to have it so we can share it with some of the other agencies. The credit card fees have always been a topic of discussion. So could you elaborate a little bit about how you got that done and how the I believe you said 2.2% actually works?
Yes, what I would like to share with that is, and thank the State Treasurer's Office for implementing a new contract that allowed us to implement that program. So their contract with the state's payment processor is, so as you know, there's 3 options. One is you can do credit cards and the fee becomes a part of cost of doing business. There's another one where you can collect the cost of the processing fee, where the department would have to adjust the fees depending on those costs continually. And then the third, with this new contract that the state treasurer implemented, allowed the department to implement this process where we collect the full amount of the taxes due to the department, and then the payment processor processes the fee, and it became a flat fee of a 2.2%. So we're pretty grateful for that. And we're going to be monitoring to see the usage and how that goes forward. So we would be more than happy to share all of our hard work in getting this. This is something the department has wanted way before my time here at the department. And what I'm hearing is they've been trying to work on this for over 10 years. And so I'm pretty honored to be able to have this opportunity now for our taxpayers.
Thank you very much. It's been something that's been discussed even longer than that, and the amount of general fund dollars that go to cover the processing fees on this. So it's we look forward to the conversation, and I look forward to talking to the state treasurer about this to see if there's a way that we can, if it works for you, then let's see where else we can take it to see if it'll work for other folks. That's great. And there is a great convenience to being able to use that credit card to pay those fees and get the points, of course. So I believe I have Senator Kickover had a question or a couple.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Appreciate it. Thank you, Director Young. First, as it relates to the tax amnesty program, we obviously have that on our balance sheets for the current fiscal year. Have you seen anything in terms of your preparation for rolling this out that indicates we may not meet the targets or may do better than the targets that we included in the budget?
Thank you. We have not seen anything on our records yet. Let me clarify. For the record, Director Young, we have not seen anything that would indicate that we are not going to receive the revenues that are on the sheets right now. And we always hopeful that we will get more, especially with the implementation of credit cards and having this on our online tax portal. I am thankful for my IT team and the project and our team that worked on this, because if a taxpayer signs up for through our online portal, they will automatically see what tax types that they're eligible for amnesty if they're delinquent on any of them. So this could be commerce tax, modified business tax, sales and use. So they would automatically notify them that they are eligible for that in our online portal. And so I'm grateful for the work that they've done to make this available to our taxpayers.
Yeah, so are we. Thank you. Appreciate that. As it relates to the position reductions for budgetary savings, oftentimes when we talk about cuts in your office, it's counterintuitive, right? If they're people who generate tax revenue through enforcement, then we're cutting off our nose to spite our face. The positions that are proposed for elimination, are they directly related to enforcement or investigations in a way that might undercut the effort?
Thank you, Director Young, for the record, and I appreciate that question. There are 7 of the positions. One of them is an IT position that we were funded last legislative, and all of them were funded during the last legislative session. So there's an IT, there's an admin assistant, there is a compliance audit investigator. One of them was a decision unit that we had asked for 2 last year, and we'd only received 1. There are a couple auditors and I think a revenue officer, but I'm going off of memory, so I could maybe turn that question over to my fiscal staff who can dive into a little bit deeper on those types of positions. And yes, as you know, and acknowledge that our auditors, revenue officers, and compliance audit investigators do bring in revenue for the state.
Appreciate that. Were you expecting someone else to jump in?
I would just like my fiscal staff to, if you want to know the specifics on the positions, I can have them provide the details on those.
We can dig in during the hearing. I just want to make sure that it's on the radar as the subcommittee starts to meet. And then I think my final question was related to the office consolidation. So is the intention to bring the 2 offices together in a centralized location outside of the Grant Sawyer building? Is that what I should take away from that?
Again, thank you, Director Young, for the record. Yes, we would find a consolidated office location somewhere in Las Vegas. Currently, we are at capacity at the Grant Sawyer building, and then we're at capacity in our Henderson office. And with the situation with our Henderson office landlord being at the end of our lease there, we could, if the landlord there is willing to work with us, we could consolidate all of our staff to that location, which would be a great benefit to not have to move the employees from there. But we're working on those details as we speak.
I'm sure there'll be a lot of interest. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Director Young.
Thank you, Senator, very much. Are there other questions from other committees? I don't see anyone sending me a message. So just speak up.
Madam Chair, if no one's going to jump in, I'll have one more question, if that's okay.
Go for it, Senator.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Director, on the change of the licensing fee from a one-time fee to an annual fee, you indicated that there were some instances that might require additional staff work to justify it. Are those theoretical, or does that actually happen? Do you have people using their sales and use tax permit to buy tax exempt goods, even though they're out of business and you have to work on it, or is that just sort of theoretical?
So Director Young, for the record, thank you for that question. There is potential for that. And so the goal is when a business that goes out of business here in Nevada, there's no motivating factor for them to come in and close out their account. So the Department of Taxation staff are constantly following up with taxpayers who have a filing obligation that don't file. So we're constantly communicating with them, reaching out, trying to find out where they're at to make sure, should they be filing? Should they not be filing? Are they closed? So we put a lot of resources into that to make sure that all of our taxpayers are remitting as they're required to do so. And so by doing this annual renewal fee, there is a small motivating factor for them to communicate with the department to make sure they close out their accounts. And theoretically, they could use that their seller's permit to purchase non-taxable items. But I don't have any.
No, I appreciate that. That was just one example that you had offered, and I just wanted to understand whether there was actual workload in the department related to working in this space, or that would justify the move to an annual fee, or whether it was sort of more theoretical. So it sounds like that there's some actual workload associated with it.
Okay, thank you very much, Senator. I was one of the ones I was gonna be cleanup hitter on, just to make sure that I understood. I know being able to have the right data and know exactly who's doing business in the state has always been a little of a barrier, being able to clean up the books. So this would be a way to address that. Are there any other questions from any other committee members of Ms. Young or her team at this time? Not seeing any, not hearing any. Thank you very much, Ms. Young. Good job. And I look forward to working with you during the next legislative session on some of these issues. So thank you very much. So with that,
Thank you.
committee members, thank you. With that, committee members, that actually addresses the two budget items we had on hearing today. Am I correct, Ms. Kaufman? I've covered everything I need to cover?
Madam Chair, that is correct.
Good, just want to make sure. It is Wednesday and sometimes things go awry. So with that, I believe we can go to our final item, which would be public comment. So we will wait for a couple of minutes. I've got 10:24. We'll go to 10:26. We'll allow public comment to open up. And then we'll have broadcast services reach out to see if there's any public comment. So with that, committee, just be at ease for just a couple of minutes, okay? Okay, I have 10:26. So broadcast services, do we have anyone in the queue for public comment this morning?
Madam Chair, the line is up and working. However, there are no public callers at this time.
Thank you very much, broadcast services, and also for all the work that you guys have done remotely to help us get through these pre-session budget hearings and all the work you've done with IFC. Thank you very much. You've done a fantastic job. We really appreciate all the effort that's put in to keep these meetings going and have them as accessible to the public as possible. So with that, committee members, I believe we are done for the day with the budget subcommittee hearings. And we have an IFC meeting scheduled at 1 p.m. So we will start promptly at 1 p.m. So thank you all very much for your time and attention. And I will see you all at 1 o'clock. Enjoy your little bit of free time between now and then. We are adjourned.